The tone, it's poised and restrained, but you can feel the storm brewing underneath every word. Characterization. Amber is immediately hateable in the best way. You've painted Jess, the narrator, as someone deeply wronged but still composed, until it's time not to be. Pacing and structure. The way you unfold the backstory while grounding us in this one pivotal moment is brilliant. It makes the reveal that Jess still has back-end access to the wedding app a juicy little snap twist. And now I'm dying to know what's her plan. Like, is she about to crash the wedding in the most elegant, calculated way? Will Ethan finally wake up, or is he a lost cause? How deep does Jess's revenge go? Petty sabotage or a full-on social nuke? The rewrite line is perfectly placed. Now, it's time to reveal what's gone wrong. The caterer doesn't show. The band gets redirected to the wrong venue. The lighting company pulls the plug due to non-payment. The transport for guests disappears, or maybe more subtle sabotage. The signature cocktails are wrong, the power flickers, names are misspelled on the menus. 2. The fallout. As the chaos mounts, Amber begins to unravel, trying to hold together the image she's so carefully curated. Ethan starts to notice, and maybe for the first time, really sees how much his sister had done. The confrontation. Maybe a private moment with Ethan, where she doesn't yell, just tells him everything she did and why. And she walks away, not for revenge, but for peace. 4. A twist ending. She could leave quietly and never look back. Or maybe she uses her leverage to get something bigger, a promotion, an opportunity, a full-on wedding planning career launched from the ashes of this one. The lights flickered. The band began quietly packing their instruments. Guests glanced. Around in confusion, 1447, the smooth jazz that had played moments ago was gone, replaced by awkward silence. At 1454, Amber finally noticed. "Why are they leaving?" she hissed at the coordinator, loud enough for a few guests to hear. But it wasn't just the band. At 1506, the staff began stepping back, whispering nervously to one another. I saw it happening like the first domino in a carefully arranged line. No champagne was being poured. No servers brought out hors d'oeuvres. The kitchen doors remained shut. Amber's perfectly curated fantasy was beginning to crumble. I took a seat at the edge of the garden, watching the chaos unfold like it was a private show. Only I knew the truth. I had undone every thread. The venue, booked under my company's guarantee. The caterers, contractually bound to me. The band, my personal contacts, the floral arrangements, the transportation, the late-night dessert bar, all under my control. 2 nights ago, I executed the contingency contracts, non-payment, breach of terms. Event paused indefinitely. It was all perfectly legal, all perfectly quiet. No one noticed, until it was too late. The third sign came when Amber stormed into the staff hallway, her voice sharp and brittle. "What is going on?" she snapped at the panicked coordinator. "Fix it." They said the payments were reversed, the coordinator stammered. "Nothing is confirmed. And the staff contracts are frozen pending authorization." "What does that mean?" Amber demanded. "It means," I said calmly, stepping out from the shadows, "that your wedding is technically on hold." Amber spun around, eyes wide, lips parted in shock. "You," she breathed. "You did this." Before I could respond, Ethan appeared behind her, eyes flicking nervously between us. He looked like a man who had just realized he'd been standing on thin ice all along. "Jay, what's going on?" he asked, voice tight. I tilted my head slightly. "Amber wanted me to help with the wedding. I helped." Amber's eyes narrowed. "You vindictive little—" "Careful," I interrupted softly. "You wouldn't want to cause a scene." She faltered. Public image was her obsession, and now every guest was looking around, murmuring as the room slipped further into chaos. "You can't do this," Ethan said, less angry now, more disbelieving. "Jessica, this is my wedding, and I spent months making sure it would be perfect," I replied evenly. "Until you both decided I didn't belong." For the first time, Amber's mask cracked. "This is petty. You're ruining Ethan's day." Ethan's day? The same Ethan who laughed when I was sent to the kids' table? The same Ethan who let you diminish me for over a year without saying a word? I let the silence settle heavy between us. Then, "Consider it a lesson." Amber grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him aside to whisper furiously. I watched it unfold exactly as I had predicted. She wasn't worried about Ethan. Not really. She was worried about optics, about the Caldwell guests whispering behind their wine glasses, about her father's business partners watching her lose control. From my spot in the hallway, I could hear the discomfort rising inside the reception hall. The band was gone, the kitchen locked. The vendors were in the parking lot. Confused, but obedient to the revised contracts, all eyes would soon turn to Amber and Ethan. No food, no music, no event, just the question, what happened? I turned to walk away, leaving them in the mess they created. But not before saying softly, "Oh, and Ethan? Remember when you said I was just overreacting? Still think so?" I didn't wait for an answer. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt nothing but quiet satisfaction. Not triumph, not revenge, just clarity. They had underestimated me. But I was never the extra. I was the foundation. The murmurs of confusion swelled behind me. Through the grand windows, I watched guests begin to realize something was wrong. The band's corner was empty. The champagne had stopped flowing. Only the brittle silence of unmet expectations remained. Amber's mother was the first to stand, adjusting her pearl necklace as she whispered nervously to a guest. Even the groomsmen, ever clueless, couldn't mask their unease. The final act had begun. I didn't have to wait long. The doors flew open. Amber stormed out, heels clicking furiously against the stone path, Ethan trailing behind. "Jessica," Amber hissed, lowering her voice. "Fix this. Right now." Ethan's eyes darted to the guests who had followed them outside. Glasses. Still half full, conversations now laser-focused on the bride's unraveling composure. I tilted my head. "Fix what?" "The vendors followed the contracts you both signed. You left it to me, remember?" Of course they didn't. Neither of them had bothered to check. Amber's nostrils flared. "We trusted you." Ethan winced. The choice of words wasn't lost on him, and certainly not on me. "No," I said, calm. "You used me. Big difference." Amber fumed. But for the first time that day, Ethan looked ashamed. His mouth opened like he had something to say, but nothing came. He glanced back at the guests, watching, whispering, realizing this scene wasn't going to be swept under any rug. "You're ruining everything," Amber said, her voice trembling. "My parents, their friends, our friends are inside wondering where the food is, where the music is. You think this makes you look strong? You look pathetic." I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "You made sure there wasn't a seat for me tonight. You laughed. You belittled me in front of everyone. And Ethan, he let you." Ethan's eyes dropped. He couldn't meet mine. Amber snapped. "So what, you sabotaged your own brother's wedding? What kind of person does that?" I took a breath, keeping steady. The kind who's finally done begging to be treated like family. More guests trickled into the garden. I spotted Ethan's boss. Aunt Marie, who never left the buffet, was out there too. Whispers swirled. "You planned this?" Ethan asked, eyes wide. "No," I said honestly. "I planned the wedding, the one you asked me to plan. Then I realized I wasn't part of it anymore. Amber made sure of that. So I stopped protecting it." Amber stepped forward, but Ethan raised a hand, stopping her. "You could have told me," he said, voice cracking. "Told you what?" I asked. "That your fiancé was humiliating me? That you didn't want to see it? You would have—" brushed it off, like always. That's when I saw it. Not just the collapse of the wedding, but of the story Ethan had been telling himself. That Amber was just strong-willed. That the family would work itself out. That I'd always be there no matter how they treated me. By now, almost everyone was outside. No music, no dinner, no first dance, just silence and a growing awareness that something irreversible had happened. "I'm not doing this here," Amber hissed, tugging Ethan's sleeve. "Inside, now!" But he didn't move. His eyes found mine again, not as the sister who was overreacting, but the person who had always held everything together. "Jess," he said, voice raw. "I don't," I said, shaking my head. "It's too late." And I walked away. Beneath the string lights, they stood, surrounded by whispers and unfinished toasts. I didn't need to say more. They would feel it long after the night ended, the cost of turning family into an afterthought. The night air was colder as I left the venue behind. I didn't rush. I didn't have to. I knew what was happening inside. Amber, scrambling to save face. Ethan, frozen as everything he thought untouchable crumbled. At the small parking lot tucked behind the garden, I paused. One deep breath. For the first time in years, I wasn't holding it all together for anyone else. I had nothing left to prove, nothing left to salvage, nothing left to lose. And somehow, that felt like freedom. I sat in my car, watching the glowing windows of the venue. I could almost hear the chaos. Vendors explaining that payments were voided, caterers packing up, the band halfway down the highway. Midnight had struck. The grand wedding? Over. Before the main course had even been served. But it had never really been about the wedding. The next morning, my phone buzzed. "Mom, I hope you're okay. Call me when you're ready." A few distant relatives reached out. "You didn't deserve that." Then came Ethan. Dozens of texts. Some angry, some confused, some sounding like the brother I remembered. But it was the voicemail at 3:13 a.m. that said it all. "Jess, please, I messed up. I should have stopped it. I should have done something. You were right. Amber, she's furious. But that's not the point. I was wrong. Please call me." I played it twice, and for the first time in years I cried. Not out of sadness, but release. 2 days later, we met at a quiet coffee shop we used to go to after Dad's chemo. Ethan looked wrecked. Dark circles, hunched shoulders, like the weight had finally landed. We sat in silence until he said, "You were right." I stirred my coffee. "About what?" "All of it. Amber, the wedding. I let her treat you like nothing." I let all of them. There it was, the apology I never thought I'd hear. "I thought you'd always be there," he said, "no matter how bad it got, no matter how much I looked the other way." I studied him. For once, no excuses, no Amber, no image to uphold. Just Ethan, my brother. "That's the thing," I said quietly. "I would have been. But there's only so much someone can take." He nodded, eyes shining. "I'm sorry. And maybe I could have unloaded everything. Resentment, hurt, all the years of being dismissed. But I didn't need to. I had already let it go. The wedding became legend among our social circles, not just because it fell apart, but because no one could quite explain how. Amber spun her story, of course, blaming vendors and unforeseen issues. But the truth lived in every raised eyebrow, every knowing glance. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt, quietly. Not just my relationship with Ethan, which he worked hard to repair, but also myself. I let go of the version of family that only accepted me if I stayed small and silent. A year later, I stood in the garden of a different venue, clipboard in hand, overseeing the final touches of another wedding. This time, I wasn't an afterthought. I was the professional, respected, seen. As the bride hugged me, I realized what I had truly learned that night. It wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about knowing your worth and never again letting anyone, not even those you love, make you forget it.